When we talk about a superpower, we are referring to a nation with immense influence that extends across the globe. This influence isn't just about having a strong army, it's a combination of a powerful economy, advanced technology, widespread cultural appeal, and significant diplomatic strength. For decades, the world looked to the West, but today, the conversation has shifted eastward. Two nations, China and India, are at the center of this discussion. With over 1 billion people each, they are not just countries but civilizations whose decisions ripple across the entire planet. Their sheer size and rapid development have led many to ask which one will ultimately lead Asia and perhaps the world. The rise of both India and China represents a historic rebalancing of global power. For centuries, these regions were centers of wealth and innovation, and now they are reclaiming that status. China's journey began earlier, with its economic reforms in the late 20th century, which transformed it into a global powerhouse in just a few decades. India's story of rapid growth started a bit later, but is now accelerating at a remarkable pace, driven by its youthful population and expanding digital economy. The world watches them not just as competitors, but as two different models of development, one a centralized, state-led system, and the other a sprawling, democratic one. While both are considered emerging superpowers, they are at very different stages of their journey. According to the Great Powers Index from 2024, China is already the definitive number 2 superpower in the world, trailing only the United States. Its total strength is rated much higher than India's, which currently sits as the 7th most powerful nation globally. This gap shows that while India has enormous potential, China has already converted much of its potential into tangible power. However, the world is no longer a simple two-player game. It is becoming multipolar, with several centers of influence making the dynamic between these two Asian giants even more crucial for global stability. Looking at the broader Asian landscape, it's clear that India and China are not the only significant players. Japan, with its highly advanced technology and economy, ranks third in Asia, just ahead of India in overall power. South Korea also boasts impressive strength, particularly when measured per citizen. These nations, along with others in Southeast Asia like Vietnam and Thailand, form a complex web of relationships, trade, and competition. This means that the future of Asia will not be decided by one country alone, but by how all these powers interact, cooperate, and compete with each other on the continental stage. The foundation of any superpower is its economy, and in this arena, both China and India have demonstrated incredible growth. China's economy is currently much larger, having established itself as the world's factory over the past 30 years. It is the undisputed global manufacturing leader, producing nearly 30% of everything made in the world in 2023. This industrial dominance, worth almost $5 trillion, gives Beijing tremendous leverage in global supply chains. It means that from the smartphone in your pocket to the toys your children play with, there is a high chance it was made in or contains parts from China. India, on the other hand, is seen as the next great economic story. While its manufacturing sector is among the top 10 globally, it is still much smaller than China's. However, India's economy is projected to be the fastest-growing major economy in the world for the next decade, with growth rates expected to hover around 6.5%. Experts predict India's GDP will more than double by 2031, reaching over $7 trillion. This growth is fueled by a massive and young workforce, a demographic advantage that China no longer has, and significant investments in infrastructure and technology. India's strength is currently more pronounced in the services sector, especially IT, but it is working hard to boost its manufacturing capabilities. The per capita figures, however, tell a different story about the lives of their citizens. This metric divides a country's total power by its population to show the average strength per person. Here, China is significantly ahead of India. China's per capita strength is more than 4 times that of India's, which is the lowest among the top 10 global powers. This indicates that while India is growing as a whole, the benefits of that growth are spread more thinly across its vast population. China has been more successful at lifting a larger portion of its people into the middle class, which contributes to greater domestic stability and economic power. China's economic path is not without its own serious challenges. The country is grappling with high levels of debt, an aging population, and increasing tensions with Western nations, which could disrupt its trade and access to technology. In contrast, India's lower national debt and favorable demographics present a more sustainable long-term picture. While China is the current economic heavyweight, India is positioned as the long-distance runner, building momentum that could see it close the gap in the decades to come. The race is about both present strength and future potential. A nation's claim to superpower status is often backed by its military strength. In this domain, China has undertaken one of the most ambitious military modernization programs in history. It now boasts the world's largest navy by number of ships and has developed advanced capabilities in areas like hypersonic missiles, artificial intelligence, and cyber warfare. Its defense spending is second only to the United States, allowing it to project power far beyond its borders, from the South China Sea to the coast of Africa. This military expansion is a clear signal of Beijing's ambition to secure its interests and challenge the existing global order. India also possesses a formidable military, one of the largest in the world, with extensive combat experience in difficult terrains like the Himalayas. It is a nuclear-armed state and has been investing heavily in modernizing its forces, purchasing advanced fighter jets, aircraft carriers, and missile defense systems. However, India's military modernization is not yet at the same scale or speed as China's. It faces challenges in its defense industrial base, often relying on imports for high-tech equipment. The ongoing border disputes between the two nations in the high mountains serve as a constant reminder of their military rivalry and the potential for conflict. Beyond military hardware, global influence is built through trade and diplomacy. Here again, China has a commanding lead. It is the largest trading partner for most countries in the world, including many in Asia, Africa, and Latin America. Its Belt and Road Initiative, a massive global infrastructure project, has extended its economic and political influence across continents. This deep economic integration means that many nations now depend on China's prosperity for their own, giving Beijing significant diplomatic leverage. When China speaks on global issues, its economic weight ensures that the world listens very carefully. India is also expanding its global footprint, promoting its neighborhood-first policy, and strengthening partnerships with countries in the West, Southeast Asia, and the Middle East through initiatives like the Quad Alliance. It presents itself as a democratic counterweight to China's authoritarian model, which attracts many like-minded nations. However, its trade volumes and investment abroad are still much smaller than China's. To truly rival China's influence, India needs to become a more essential economic partner for more countries, turning its diplomatic goodwill into concrete strategic and commercial ties across the globe. For China to solidify its position as the undisputed superpower of Asia, its primary task is to manage its internal and external pressures. The country must navigate its transition from an investment-led economy to one driven by domestic consumption, without triggering a financial crisis from its high debt levels. It also needs to innovate its way out of reliance on Western technology, especially in critical sectors like semiconductors. Diplomatically, Beijing faces a challenge in softening its assertive wolf warrior image, as its aggressive posture has pushed many neighboring countries, including India, Japan, and Australia, closer to the United States. For India to rise and truly compete for the top spot, its path involves translating its immense potential into reality. The most critical task is to create enough jobs for the millions of young people entering the workforce each year. This requires a massive expansion of its manufacturing sector to complement its strong service economy. India must also continue to improve its infrastructure, roads, ports, and energy, to make doing business easier and more efficient. Furthermore, it needs to invest more in human capital, improving education and healthcare to lift its per capita strength and ensure that its economic growth benefits a larger portion of its population. The competition between India and China will not happen in a vacuum. The decisions made in Washington, Tokyo, and Brussels will heavily influence the outcome. The United States in particular plays a crucial role as it seeks to balance its relationship with both powers. A world that continues to favor democratic values might create more opportunities for India, while a world focused purely on economic efficiency might continue to empower China. The choices of smaller Asian nations, whether they align with Beijing or New Delhi, will also shape the regional balance of power, creating a complex and dynamic geopolitical chessboard. Ultimately, the question of Kaun Banega Asia Ka superpower may not have a single winner. It is more likely that Asia is heading towards a future with two major poles of power. China will remain a dominant force due to its established economic and military might. However, India's demographic advantages and accelerating growth trajectory position it to become a formidable challenger and a co-shaper of the Asian century. The final outcome will depend on which nation better manages its internal weaknesses and successfully navigates the intricate dance of global diplomacy. The race is on, and the world is watching.